Hello everyone, Ben DeBono here for our final foray into the treatise on the triune God. I said when we started this that I thought it was going to be easier than the treatise on the one God. It was not. I found this part very, very difficult, so I apologize for the false hope. I do think it gets easier from this point on, though. But given my track record on that, probably best not to believe me. In any event, here we are, the mission of the divine persons. That is question 43. Last time we took a look at articles 1 through 4. Today, 5 through 8. Starting with Article 5, whether it is fitting for the sun to be sent invisibly. Alright. Invisible mission for the divine persons is based on the gift of grace. And 1 Corinthians 12:11 seems to imply that all the gifts of grace belong to the Holy Spirit. Number 2, the mission of the divine persons is according to sanctifying grace. And 1 Corinthians 13:2 seems to say that sanctifying grace is not part of the perfection of the intellect. Where does the Son proceed from, everyone? That's right, he proceeds from the intellect. So that seems like a problem. And number 3, the mission of the divine persons is procession. The procession must differ from each other in order to not be superfluous. Therefore, the Son and Spirit cannot both be sent invisibly. But the Book of Wisdom, chapter 9, verse 10, speaks of divine wisdom being sent invisibly. Sorry, Protestants. I know you guys don't have that one, so you'll have to find your argument from authority somewhere else, or else just trust us Catholics and Orthodox out there. All right, argument. As was previously established, the whole Trinity dwells in the mind by sanctifying grace. Therefore, because it's the whole Trinity, that means that both the Son and Spirit are sent invisibly. All right, all gifts of the grace are attributed to the Spirit, but some are appropriated to the Son. See, they're sharing. How about that? The Son is sent invisibly, not according to the perfection of the intellect, but according to intellectual illumination. That's a cool, a little bit of alliteration there. And then the missions of the Son and the Spirit are distinguished not by whether they're sent visibly or invisibly, but by their effects. That'll, of course, be important again when we get down to number 7. Article 7, we'll see a bit more of what some of those effects are, and he'll distinguish those two missions a bit more. All right. Is the invisible mission to all who participate by grace, specifically the fathers of the Old Testament. Right there off the bat. So, fathers of the Old Testament, people before Jesus, did they get the invisible mission of Jesus? Well, it seems like they had grace, but there was no invisible mission sent to them. Okay? So then, what the argument here is, for everybody who has grace, before or after Jesus, is the invisible mission of the Son to everyone who has grace, and they're saying no, because people who had grace precede Jesus and therefore seem to precede the mission of the Son. Progress in virtue is by grace. The invisible mission is not according to progress of virtue, since progress is continuous and the mission is not. Mission implies distance. Christ and the blessed have grace and are perfectly united to God without distance. And the sacraments contain grace, and the invisible mission is not in them. But Augustine says the invisible mission is for sanctification. Every creature with grace is sanctified. Therefore, the invisible mission is to every creature with grace. Okay? Mission implies two things: the indwelling of grace and the renewal of grace. And therefore, mission is to those who have grace, or those with grace. It's either going to be about indwelling or renewal. Those two. So the presence of grace in someone and the invisible mission of the Son are closely linked together. Okay, can't have one without the other. All right. Augustine explains, and this is one of those points where Aquinas does go into more details. If you want to know more about what he says here, you just go look it up. But he cites Augustine to kind of explain how the invisible mission does include the Old Testament fathers. There's a lot of thought on that topic throughout church history and all that. Interesting topic. Number 2, the invisible mission takes place regarding progress and virtue. And again, Augustine's there to explain to us how that works. The mission occurs to the blessed at the beginning of their beatitude and to Christ at the moment of his conception. Okay, so the mission you know, in other words, to like the saints who are enjoying the beatific vision is what we mean when we talk about the blessed there. So in the beginning of their blessedness, they didn't just instantly start as saints enjoying the beatific vision. There was progress and sanctification, all that good stuff. And then the mission is not sent to the sacraments, but to those who receive the sacraments. Important distinction. All right, number 7, whether it is fitting for the Holy Ghost to be sent visibly. All sorts of objections here. Number 1, the Son is visibly sent into the world and is said to be less than the Father. That would mean the Son manifest in the person of Jesus, as we already established. The Trinitarian persons are none are less than another. The Spirit is never said to be less than the Father, therefore he's not sent visibly. The Son's visible mission took place through union with the visible creature, and the Spirit never assumes any visible creature. Every visible creature is an effect of the whole Trinity. Okay, I was confused when I first read this. It doesn't become clear till later on in the article that what he means by every visible creature is every visible creature that in which a visible appearance of the Trinity is manifest, and it doesn't mean like literally every creature. Okay, so the Spirit is not sent visibly any more or less than any other person within the Trinity to all those different creatures. Things like the burning bush or the dove or tongues of fire and all that good stuff. Number 4, the Son was sent by union with rational creatures. It would not be fitting for the Spirit to be sent by anything less than a rational creature. Number 5, whatever is done visibly by God is dispensed by the angels. Therefore, any visible appearances by God are on account of the angels being sent, not the Spirit. And number 6, the Spirit would only be sent visibly to manifest the invisible mission. If he is sent this way, then all who receive the invisible mission should receive him visibly. And this is not true. Okay? Matthew 3:16 says, who's sent in the form of the dove? Oh, that's right, the Spirit. So, case closed. And then, fairly brief argument, man requires to be led to invisible things by visible things. Therefore, a visible mission of the divine persons is fitting. And then, who takes part in that visible mission? Well, the Son and the Spirit. And this is where I said earlier he gets a little bit more into distinguishing their two missions. So the Son's part of that mission is to be the author of sanctification. The Spirit is the sign of sanctification. And that is going to impact, as we'll see as he answers these objections, that changes then how we think about the Son being manifest visibly versus the Spirit being manifest visibly. Okay. Right off the bat here, we have an example that the Son assumed human form so that what can be said of humans can be said of the Son. The Spirit's visible mission didn't have that requirement, therefore he appears visibly in a way that never makes his visible form less than God. Number 2, the Spirit does show himself as certain signs for the sake of creatures. Number 3, the whole Trinity does appear in each creature which is part of a visible appearance, but different members are meant to emphasize one or another members of the Trinity. So when we talk about the dove, we would say, yeah, the whole Trinity is present in the form of the dove, but yet the sign of the dove is meant to especially emphasize the Spirit to us. Okay. Number 4, the Son required the form of a rational creature in order to complete his mission as the author of sanctification, but the Spirit didn't have that requirement, so it's not an issue of nobility or fittedness or any propriety or anything like that. It just has to do with what is being accomplished by the different missions. Number 5, the visible creatures were formed by the ministry of angels, but do not signify the angels, but the divine persons. So just because angels have a role in these visible appearances, it doesn't mean that we're seeing the angels when we see the dove. That's not how it works. And then number 6, the invisible mission does not require a visible sign in every instance. And Aquinas goes into quite a bit of detail on that one if you're interested. Finally, number 8, whether a divine person is sent only by the person whence he proceeds eternally. In other words, can the Son only be sent from the Father? Can the Spirit only be sent from the Father and the Son? The Father is from no one and is also not sent. Therefore, it seems that a divine person can only be sent by the person he proceeds from. The sender has authority over the sent, and there's no authority within the Trinity except by origin, And then if this is not true, then the Spirit can be given by a man, which Augustine says is wrong. And yeah, heck yeah, that's wrong. The Son is sent by the Spirit according to Isaiah 48:16, although he does not proceed from the Spirit. And then Aquinas gives one of the more interesting arguments that we've seen so far in the Summa, because he basically starts out by saying, well, actually, from a certain point of view, all those objections are correct. And what he basically lands on is that there's different opinions about this among Christian theologians, but that, well, in a certain sense, all of this is true. In a more proper sense, we would say the whole Trinity sends whatever person is sent, and that's that. And then kind of regarding the whole thing being sent by a man, well, no, only the Trinity can send a divine person because no creature can cause grace. And he wraps us up by saying that article pretty much takes care of the objections. I mean, yeah, it kind of does by just saying, yeah, they're pretty much right. So interesting answer there. All right. That's it for the treatise on the triune God. So next up we will have an introduction to the next treatise. What I think I might do, and I got to get into these and kind of break down the structure a little bit more, because what we've done in the previous introductions here, let me close this up. We've kind of gone through how these are broken down and everything, and looked at the whole structure and all that, and obviously, with only 6 questions in the treatise on creation, that's not going to be that complicated. So maybe we'll just kind of see how it is. I'll probably do at least these 2 in one introduction, and if they both turn out to have a really simple structure, maybe we'll throw in the treatise on the work on the 6 days in there too. These are slightly shorter treatises, obviously. I mean, this one, the treatise on the triune God was 16 questions, but those are 16 questions, and I know I've said that it's going to get simpler before and been wrong, but once we get into the treatise on the work on the 6 days, there's a couple of questions that are only 1 article long, so some of these do get pretty short. So we'll just kind of take a look at that and see what we're going to do as far as an introduction and structure and everything for these next few treatises. But yeah, we're almost at the halfway point here of the Prima Pars, which is good. Making all sorts of progress. So that's it for the treatise on the triune God. And man, that was a tough one. That really, I found that to be quite a stretch. So hopefully we'll find things a little more understandable going forward. If not, we can just all be lost together. Anyway, for now, I'm Bendy Bono, and I'll talk to you later.